It's fine. It's good.
Okay.
I'm good.
God,
Hey everyone, welcome to another live stream with Shobi. My name is Abdul Chohan. I'm the Vice President of Learning at Shobi. And for those of you that don't know what Shobi is, feel free to go to shobi.com and have a look. But in a nutshell, Shobi is a platform that allows for assessment and feedback and allows teachers to give rich and deep kind of feedback to students as well. It has a bunch of innovative tools. But anyway, today we actually have Jenna and Denise from Westlake High in Texas, both chemistry teachers, obviously the best subject in the world. I'm also a former chemistry teacher. Jenna, Denise, welcome to our live stream. Thank you so much for making the time and joining us today. So I'm just going to get straight into it because we have 30 minutes and I kind of like to keep it snappy. I want to tell us a little bit about Westlake High. Tell us about your school, your community. Take it away. Tell us.
I'll start with the school and I'll give you community.
Yeah. Sure.
So we are a smaller district in Austin. We have one high school and 6 elementary schools and 2 middle schools. Our high school is about 2,800 students, and we are in a 1-to-1 iPad for the district. And as far as community,
we have a community that's very supportive of education. Lots of like doctors, teachers, and lawyers. Students are what we're teaching, engineers. So they value education. They think it's very, very important, and they expect a lot from this school as far as educating their kids. But we get a lot of support back from them, so that's great too.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. So tell me a little bit about kind of, your subjects, how you teach. What does if I'm a student in your class, what's my experience going to be like? How are you going to be teaching me? How am I going to learn in your classroom? And
well, Jenna, go ahead.
Go on, Jenna. I'll fire that one at you. Tell me.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, so we both teach AP chemistry here at Westlake High School. I also teach honors chemistry, and then Denise over here also teaches organic chemistry. So another kind of unique thing about our school is kids can take 3 out of 4 years of chemistry at the high school level, which is, I think, pretty special for us. We have a lot of kids that really love the subject. As far as what to expect when you come into our classroom, lots of hands-on, lots of back in the lab, inquiry kind of activities where they're figuring out these scientific phenomenons. I know we use Pogles in our classroom, lots of technology, lots of simulations. I mean, as simple as a string on a piece of cardboard trying to show a Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution and shifting. It is all the way up to incorporating technology for assessments and organizing our classrooms in Google Classroom and using other technology to just streamline it.
Wonderful.
We just don't want the kids to get bored. We're worried about the kids getting bored. So the engagement is super important to us.
So your introduction to Shobi and Socrative, if you want, how did that happen? Because obviously you're using iPad, you're using the Google infrastructure as well. There's a lot of hands-on stuff that's going on as well. Where does Shobi kind of fit into your story?
Well, originally we used primarily Socrative before the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we were put in a situation where we had to figure out a way to assess these kids both in person and away at the same time. So we had this hybrid situation going on, and we needed something that the kids could write in and draw and do structures and all the math and all the things. And literally was our introduction. And since then, I'm sure we'll talk about more what we're doing at this point, but it was out of necessity. And now we've just found so many other awesome things that we are continuing it, even though we're all back in school. So we love it.
Okay. I think that's kind of quite interesting to hear, because sometimes we kind of innovate and look for new things when there's necessity, right?
Right.
When there's ease and comfort, we're kind of just carry on doing what we've been doing and things don't change. So I think one of the good things that's kind of come out of this horrible pandemic all over the world is I've been speaking to teachers in Rwanda. I've been speaking to teachers in South Africa. I've been speaking to teachers in India that have suddenly discovered kind of Shobi, and they've come up with really innovative ways of using that. I remember speaking to one particular head teacher overnight. They just used the free version, got kids on their phones and so on. Hardly any kind of resources in the school, and this particular teacher, out of her own passion, was kind of able to make a hybrid learning kind of environment happen. So I'm really interested to hear, like, okay, COVID is kind of, it's still here, but we're kind of, certainly in the UK, we're kind of going back to schools and classrooms and so on. So why not go back to what you were doing before, right? Why is Shobi still here? So that's the one question I really want to know about you guys.
Oh, that's a great question. So, last year when we had to move to start using Shobi, it was funny because we were like, we just needed something that kids could write on where we could see their work and follow their thought process. And then there ended up being all these extra benefits that we didn't even think about at the time. But when we're all back here also in our district, all 100% of our kids are in front of us now. And we thought about it, we talked about it, and we were like, well, this benefit of using Shobi as opposed to going back to like paper assessments or anything like that just really outweighed it. So some of it was that just everything is in one place. We've linked our Socratives to our Shobi. So any quiz that's multiple choice and any quiz or extra credit AP practice or anything we do is all in one place. And so we can post like the assignment, and then we also post but share to no one the answer key. So as soon as they're done, there's their work, they can see it, and we can go share that answer key with everyone, and they know to go into Shobi and they can see their mistakes, they can learn from their mistakes. Another big one is we do an AP. We want kids, like I just said, to learn from their mistakes. And so we used to do a test correction system. You take a test, we want you to know from your mistakes, and we used to have those paper tests, and they'd have to come sit in our room, look at the test. What did I mess up? Ask questions.
If we were gone, they couldn't do test corrections.
Yeah, if we were
and it
absent.
was always such a big deal.
And our kids are busy. Like, with this, our district, they're in 1,800 extracurriculars. So it's like, I can't come before school, but I'm not available after school. It always is a scheduling nightmare. Now it's like, everything's viewable in Shobi. Go work on your test corrections. Come in if you have questions, or email if you have questions. It just opens up this whole flexibility. So it's
with the window, like we can open it. This is only open for 48 hours. And we can control that from home at any point in our car on the way to the coast. We are like launching things.
Yeah.
It's so nice. It's amazing.
Yeah. So it's the flexibility for me and the organization that it provided to my classroom, which really made us stick with using Shobi. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, just in since we're an AP class, we will have the AP exam at the end of the year. So we're organizing in those units. So once that time comes, we'll start unlocking all the units again. And we can say, okay, today we're studying units 1 through 4. We unlocked it all, go. But we still have control when we know our whole curriculum is not just disappearing out into the wilderness.
Yeah,
I really like the fact that you've talked about flexibility, because that's certainly something that teachers discover when they begin to use Shobi. I know, like when in my school many years ago, when we introduced it, that degree of flexibility was suddenly noticed, right? Some teachers had very young children. They wanted to go home early and then look after the kids. And then in the evening, they could just get on there. And one of the big features that for me, that was kind of really innovative at the time was that voice feedback stuff. The voice notes that you can leave. And the fact that I could speak to my students whilst they're not with me, that for me was a big win at that time. I don't know, is that something that your teachers have found, in terms of the way they give feedback and so on?
We mainly give it through comments, but yeah, we can use that voice option, but with so many kids in the classroom at the same time, it's a lot of noise. So if there's an assignment that I'm giving them where they're at home, or maybe if it's a snow day or whatever, that would be a totally awesome way to give information.
Those Texas snow days.
Yeah. Well, when Texas, we're wimps. You get this much ice on the ground and everybody crashes.
It
So,
just drops below freezing. We just cancel everything.
They shut everything down.
We're like, we're done. Nobody leave your house. You don't know how to drive.
And I just wanted to add the whole grading thing, like not losing papers, not a kid said I turned it in, but they didn't kind of a thing. It's awesome. It's all right there. And we go home. It's time stamped. We go home on the weekends with our iPad and our Apple Pencil. We don't have to take anything but that little iPad, and we can grade all our stuff. So
that's pretty fantastic. What has it meant in terms of like workload for teachers? Compared to before and after, has it had an impact? Is it still the same? There's discussions that I've kind of not been part of, but I've seen where teachers were taking books home or papers home to mark, and that's kind of gone now. Is that something that you've experienced at Westlake?
I would, it's hard to tell because it's probably saved me time, but then I fill up that time. I try to innovate and make something new. So it's hard to gauge that. I feel like I have less work. But I will say that like that flexibility, like it used to be that I'd have to spend class time handing back papers. Like, here's your lab, here's your quiz, here's your this. And now it's like a click, and every kid has their paper and I can move on. So even if it's saving me 3 minutes a class period, that adds up over time. So as far as maximizing class time for learning and engagement and activities, it definitely saves me there.
Yeah. From the teacher end, I do think there's a learning curve. We have some teachers that we finally got on board this year that were a little like, I don't like grading in it, but we found that the more we did it, the faster we are at it. And now I never want to go back to paper and pencil because of it. So I think that I encourage people to just try it, and not for a day, try it for like a grading period and force yourself. And then you're going to start to see the benefits. Because just like anything else, you got to learn how to use it. You got to learn how to make it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the student perspective like? Like what's the students' kind of feedback on this? Because I'm assuming like you will have had iPads or technology in your school for a while. You'll have been using that potentially effectively and so on. Then you've introduced kind of Shobi. What's the reflection like from students?
They're great. Like they use it in middle school. I know they use Shobi in middle school, and when they get to high school, fewer teachers use it. So they already understand the platform and they adapt to things really, really well. So to them, it's no big deal. Like they already are used to it. I think the only frustration we have is when we have internet slows, right? And then like the writing that goes from one page to the other when you flip too fast or whatever, that's literally the only negative thing we have to talk them through.
And that's just when they're writing directly in Shobi, but like, uploading things and stuff like that.
Problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And this might not apply, but is there a parental aspect that you use with Shobi, or is that not a feature that you don't necessarily engage with?
You mean parents being able to see what's in Shobi?
Yeah.
At the high school level, not so much.
Not so much.
You can invite guardians on Google Classroom, and I have found that even giving parents that option, most of our parents at this point, when they're in AP chemistry, are kind of like, that's them. That's, they're like, I'm looking at it, I don't know what it is either, So I find that at our level, that functionality isn't really used, only because our parents are kind of like, they're becoming little adults and they're going to take care of their own stuff. So
yeah. And our Shobi is mainly for things that we lock down, like our quizzes and assessments and things like that. We do use Google Classroom as mandated by the district as our primary distributor of information. Yeah. So if parents needed stuff, that's where they would go to get daily information about our courses.
Right. So just explain this to me a little bit more, right? Because this is kind of unique. So you've got Google Classroom that's kind of mandated by the district. So how does that work alongside kind of Shobi? How do you create consistency of use around those two things? Because a lot of people might say, well, if you've got Google Classroom, you might not want to use Shobi and so on. So what is it that Shobi's kind of provide? I'm kind of seeing more and more schools that are using Google Classroom or the Google infrastructure, but they're still kind of using beginning to kind of use Shobi as well. So what does Shobi bring to the party, if you want, or how do you kind of create that degree of consistency?
Yeah, we decided we were going to rename our tests celebrations. So like, come in and we're going to celebrate Unit 2 today. So that's when you said what brings to the party.
It's happy hour our practices. So just
okay. This wasn't. We never rehearsed this, right? This was just.
We did not. You just set us up and we just knocked it out of the park. I would say
it's what happens when you put chemists in the room. You get a reaction, right?
They have the same humor.
Yes. Good chemical reaction.
For us, the big thing is the ability to lock, let the kids view, and let the kids edit. So in Google Classroom, like once you put it out there, it's just out there. And so with Shobi, and we also have with the iPads, Apple Classroom. So we can lock them into Shobi. They can do their work. We can kick them out of Shobi. They're done. And we can move on. So like first period, we can give a test and we can be fairly confident that that test is not out there besides word of mouth when I give it again 7th period, even if it's a different version, you know what I mean? So I would say the locking down feature is what makes it so much different, being able to say, you can see this now, you can't see this now for us.
Yeah, Google Classroom has not that at all. Not at all. There's nothing
or at least
you can
not that
do.
we know about.
Well, not that we know about, but nothing that we can do. Once we let it go, there's no way to unless we delete it, but then it's in their Google Drive. So literally for us, that is the hub of general material dissemination. And Shobi is our assessment tool for formative and summatives and practices and things like that. Mm-hmm. So and then we put
and
links.
Then actually that's sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
Go on, yeah.
No, I'm good. You can finish what you're saying.
No, I was just gonna say that actually that's pretty much what I'm hearing from other schools as well. Like we're using Google Classroom, but it's pretty much about sending information like resources and so on. But when it comes to assessment, when it comes to feedback and so on, that's what we're actually using Shobi for. They kind of, and it's really interesting to see teachers kind of separate those two things out, because I want a channel of information and resources that I just want to send to the students they can have access to at any time. But when it comes to assessment and feedback, I kind of want to have control over that. I want to be able to lock, I want to be able them to see it, not see it, and so on. And I suppose the other aspect is the Socrative integration, right? Because that adds a significant advantage from a Shobi perspective.
I love it. And I love being able to send them back their results. So it's like literally one click. And like I said, it saves me that class time of having to sit here and hand you back quizzes. Like you just one click, it's back. They know what they did. They know what they didn't do. And I move on, so. Yeah.
So I think Socrative's reporting features are actually quite powerful. And the fact that then you can annotate on top of that and give feedback on top of that, that becomes kind of quite a powerful thing to be able to do as well.
Well, I was going to say, and you just, I think, nailed it. Besides just Google Classroom being how we send out information, it's much more difficult to annotate. We use Google Classroom rubrics, which is great. But as far as writing on and like circling things and going, here's your mistake, we found it,
So hard.
It's difficult.
It's so hard in Google Classroom.
Just page to page to page in Shobi, it makes it very quick.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your kind of approach. Do you use any specific learning models in your school? Are you using like Bloom's taxonomy, or is there kind of I'm going to kind of throw models at you, the TPAC stuff that people kind of make reference to and so on. I don't know. Is there a particular approach that people kind of use in your school, or,
Well, we work in our team. So because we're in such a competitive district, my AP classroom experience needs to be the same as her AP classroom experience. So because of that, we have PLCs, professional learning communities, where we get together and we do whatever we need to do to create what we call a guaranteed viable curriculum that we follow. We can take, modeling and sources from anywhere. The key is that we all have to be doing the same thing. And so with this team, we can be creative in that process. But I think that's the true modeling, is just, I don't know how else to address that.
And I don't know our school district, what I love about our principal is he gives us a lot of respect in the fact that we're professionals and we're going to do what we need to do in our classroom. So it doesn't dictate like all of your lesson plans need to follow a 5E model. Yeah. But I know personally, we like to do like reverse planning. Let's start with the end in mind. Let's figure out what the goal is. How are they going to demonstrate to us this knowledge? Like, where do we want them to end unit 2? Knowing how to do this, this, and this. What are our learning targets, our goals? And then we work backwards. What are we going to do activity-wise, lab-wise, even just assessment-wise to help them find those misconceptions, find those mistakes, and fix them so we can get them to that goal?
And we like to mix it up. We don't want it to be always a paper quiz or a manipulative. Like, we want a little bit of kinetic theory, what is it called? Kinesthetics, a little bit of audio, a little bit of visual. Like, we try every unit to have different things.
Different things that are in there.
And those learning styles. That's not a real thing anymore.
How do your teachers kind of share best practice? You know, you got those learning communities. Did you just kind of say? So where are the opportunities for people to kind of share great things that are happening, right? Because I always believe that in every school, there's always something amazing that's going on. And sometimes it's just happening in that classroom and nobody gets to know about it. Yeah. So, creating opportunities for people to kind of bump into one another, see one another, and kind of see what's going on sometimes kind of makes us better educators, better teachers, because we're always learning. So what does that environment look like in your school?
Well, and this is something that I wish more schools did, but go ahead and you can talk about it.
So we at our school have what's called the Teacher Innovation Academy, which any teacher can be part of. And we meet, and it's changed obviously with COVID and everything. We used to meet once a month for a full day. They got us a sub in our classroom where it's exactly what we did. It was a group of teachers who wanted to innovate, learn. It's cross-curricular. We had librarians, ed techs, English teachers, math teachers, science teachers. We had like the gamut in this room of teachers that just want to be better in here. And we do expert sessions where if there was something I did in my classroom that was really great and I think other teachers could use it, I could present that to the group. We also did collaborative sessions where, hey, I want to do this project, but I'm not like, I know what I want the kids to do, but I'm not sure about the details to get there. And you would sit and you would pitch it to this group of teachers and they go, oh, have you ever heard of this style of rubric? Or, flip grade would be really great for that. And so it's a very, I literally leave with goosebumps every time just because I feel so lucky that I get to be part of this group of teachers who want to innovate and want to help me be better and can show me how to be better. So that, and then our PLC groups are, so like ours is 8th period, it's science wide. And so even though we meet every day to talk about AP chemistry, it gives me an opportunity to talk, hey, bio teachers, my kids are struggling with, catalysts in chemistry, but I know y'all do that with enzymes. Give me those notes so I can use that to refresh that information for kids. There's lots of time for talking and growing and building. Lots of opportunities at our school.
There is. And then in that Teacher Innovation Academy, we're both part of, when we get these awesome ideas, we then take them back, as do the history teachers and the math teachers, to their own PLC groups. And so that's how that information is disseminated.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this right now. I'm actually based in the UK, in England, but I'm speaking to you from Dubai at the moment. I actually arrived here this morning. So I'm working with some schools over here that are also Shobi users. And there's one particular school that I kind of went to see, and the principals introduced this thing very much like what you've just said, but it's called, like, they call it like my one best thing, and in Shobi, in groups, all the teachers are present in a specific group, and if something brilliant happens in your class, you're able to record it as a video thing and you just upload it and all the other teachers can see, and they just kind of say, and then people can say, hey, how did you do this? Or this was really good, and so on. And, there's a kind of learning dialogue that happens. But what's also really interesting is they also have my one best failure. What did I try and do that didn't actually work? And what's really fascinating is when they upload those into the Shobi group, other teachers look at that and think, well, maybe you could have done it this way, or actually I tried to do something similar. But what it does do is it really opens up that dialogue and that conversation about, amazing stuff that goes on in schools that sometimes we just don't know about.
I like making it school wide.
Where you could share.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that's kind of worthwhile exploring from your kind of, teacher innovation group. Wonderful. That's pretty amazing. So we kind of this happens to me all the time. We kind of start the conversation, and then like next time I look at the clock, it's like 25 minutes have gone up. We've just got a few more minutes left, sort of thing, and so on. So one thing that I'm really interested in is, how we can get educators to kind of collaborate across the world, especially educators that are using Shobi, that are using Socrative, and so on. And also to kind of increase awareness, like getting educators to understand about what Shobi is, what Socrative is, how does it actually support learning and assessment, rather than just a conduit for sending out resources, which I think you've kind of explained really well. What would you say to somebody that's kind of, or educators that might be looking at Shobi, that might be using Google Classroom or Office 365 and so on? What would your kind of, top 3 tips be for them, right, in terms of exploring Shobi and kind of using it? What would your kind of top tips be?
Top 3.
Well, I don't know if it's the top 3, but the first thing that comes to my head is don't be afraid to start small. Like, we use it not every day, but very, very often in our classroom, but it did not start that way. Our very first time of using it, we're like, we're just going to put this one thing on there, and we're going to get the kids to use it and give us feedback. And then we're going to see what we liked about it and then adjust and change. So don't be afraid to say, you know what, I'm going to try this technology, but I don't need to use it every day. I don't need to use it for every single thing. Find where it fits, and don't be afraid to say, okay, even if it's 4 things this year that I think Shobi will help me with, or whatever technology platform you're looking at, don't be afraid to start small. And that doesn't make it bad. You don't have to dive in and use it every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's definitely something I would suggest to an educator, is don't feel like it has to be your only thing or your one thing.
Yeah. And again, go back to the learning curve concept. I think we get overwhelmed as educators. We have so much on our plate, and sometimes just the fear of something new it's just scary, and we're busy, and we're like, so much easier to fall back on what we've always done. And so I've been teaching for 26 years, and every year I'm doing something new. So just, like Jenna said, start small, but force yourself to try it for a certain length of time. And it does get easier, and you get really fast at it, and it ends up saving you time in the long run.
Time and frustration, for sure. I'm going to give a third one. Then we get 3. Do it with a friend. And even we teach together, we have our period where we can collaborate and all of this. But even if it's someone just across the hall, say, let's try this together. And I can tell you how many times I've run in here and been like, I discovered a new feature I didn't know existed. And I tell everyone around me about it.
Happened yesterday.
Literally yesterday. Or they do the same thing to me. They run in and they tell me something that I didn't know I could do. So don't feel like you have to do it alone. And even if it's not like, oh, we both teach AP chemistry and we're going to eat, but like, hey, you do some things and see what you like and see what you don't like. And let's talk about it afterwards. Because I feel like trying something with someone where you can say, this is what went well, this is what went, and having that talk out about it makes it a little less intimidating and a little more fun that you have someone to go through it with you. So
just a couple of things on collaborations. One is with Socrative quizzes, do you collaborate as chemists? Do you make your quizzes together, or do you share quizzes? How does that work?
So we know, because we've talked to Socrative, that the collaborative quiz function is coming. Right now, one of us will make one, and we'll send it to everyone else in chemistry who's using it. And then they all put eyes on it and they say, hey, let's add this question, or I don't like question number 4. And then they adjust it, and then they send it back to everyone where we all look at it again, and then we send it out again. So we are collaborating on it, but typically it's someone makes it and then everyone's giving feedback and we're talking about it.
And in Shobi, obviously, you will probably know of the feature where you can add multiple teachers into a class.
Yes.
Do you use that as a collaborative feature as well?
Actually, we haven't, but it did save us last year. We had a teacher who had a family emergency with 3 weeks left in the year. And we just took her iPad, added ourselves as collaborative teachers, and we graded all her work. We gave all her kids feedback. So we haven't used it in the sense of creating things collaboratively, because typically we create elsewhere and then just import into Shobi. But it saved us in the sense that then we were able to access all of her students' work even when she wasn't here.
I think we're a little gun shy, not just from Shobi, but from platforms in the past, starting with Smart Notebook way back in the day. We did all these things, and then they get pulled out from under us and we're like, where's all our stuff? So we're very conscious about doing everything outside of any platform. And then having it just in case, and then importing it in. So most of our creative stuff is done outside of any platform. Shobi, Socrative, Edpuzzle, all of it. Yeah.
Of course. So we've hit time and we are over time as well. This was an amazing conversation. I am 100% sure that we will be speaking again, either live or online or something. I'm pretty sure that we will be in touch again. It's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show. I've really enjoyed speaking to you and getting a real insight into your school, into Westlake High in Texas. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jenna and Denise. Thank you.
We appreciate you having us.
Thank you.